loads of things I was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Last week it was like, oh.
Last month. Where did we go? Here? When the country was. This is where we normally go. Yeah.
You not going again?
No, because I get distracted.
Unless you leave it 63.
Yeah.
Top.
No, he can't go. You go there.
Oh, you go one of the grass.
No, I'll go here because we can't.
No,
yeah. We can take that one for him because if we say from this one at the window, it's got to awkwardly shut the window.
That's fine. That's fine.
I like the idea that the wall is definitely going to change with this light.
Yeah. That'll be great mediator.
What do you like, Jess? Pepsi Max?
Pepsi.
Oh, that's Coke Zero. Orange Zero. That is a Coca-Cola regular. Or Fanta.
Yeah, I'll have the regular Coca. Is that an your one?
Looks like it. The other one has zero sugar across the top. It says original taste.
He's asking what hotel he's booking for tomorrow night. This is it.
Right, like he's got sold it, he's trying to do.
He's like proper cheeky. You like him, he's good. But like he's swimming around. But just the way he's getting on. Good one.
Oh, delicious.
I like that. What time's it start? Is it 7 or 7:30?
7.
Okay, so we got like early.
Yeah.
Ish.
We're not extremely early. Other people are here.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense when we've got contractors. Yeah, exactly.
So they were sleeping half an hour before and after and half an hour lunch.
Which is why you want to do 15 minutes or something.
No, I filmed it in 1 minute increments. I really
Oh.
Amazing.
Hey, why? You got knocked off.
The impression is how tired I am before we go.
Yes, you're right. Like last day of term is the last day that I was out.
I feel like if I get a couple of cans in one for some for lunch, and then chill one before I go to bed, and then I get up, then I will do like night, and then I'll start painkillers. I'll go home. At least we'll stay at some hotel. The thing is, it's probably going to be a proper ginger part as well.
We're about to go to the mountain.
Yeah. The rainbow. We need to catch him up with you tomorrow. It's going to be really easy with the cold one that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh.
And then bring the others to do that.
Yeah, man, let's set this way.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
Green.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
man.
man, yeah.
What do you want then?
Read out the order. Sorry, what's in there?
Coca-Cola?
Nope.
Where did he go to play pool?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
Man. Locker room is it called?
Is it far away?
Beaver Street, 2-minute walk.
I want something
Oh,
spicy.
really?
It's like a tenner for an hour.
Are you serious?
Like more.
Yeah.
They do food as well.
I want something spicy.
Which direction is that for?
So you know when we walk to Granite Kitchen,
Yeah.
down Beaver Street,
Yeah.
it's literally opposite Tesco, almost.
Ah, okay.
That's almost as close as Tesco.
What do you like, man?
Bex, I think, is what it's there. Make sure it's not Bex Blue.
Last time I had this, I almost choked. Yeah, it was
Good job.
so good.
I like how we just come every month and go there.
Oh, it was company every month.
Oh, I need to get a bottle opener on my.
I can help you with this one.
Ah, you're opening with this one, bro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you put the spike in the top and twist it.
Yeah, yeah. Because it didn't have the kind of edge, you know. I'll take the piece as well.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
No, it's not coming.
Did he reply?
Yeah.
Oh, really? How about Adrian? Who won the full game?
Me.
No.
I beat Gregory twice in one game.
Yeah.
Because he potted the black and then
Oh,
I said,
yeah.
let's carry on. And then beat him again.
Yeah.
These two won't beat me for like 6 months.
You want a bet?
Yeah.
Me, I was close there. Like,
Nah, I was
Yeah, man, my heart was
I'm
going.
all close.
Do you have some beers at the office?
Do we have what, say?
Some beers before?
No, we stayed there for like 20 minutes and then went to play pool.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We played pool for like 40
So
minutes.
20 minutes after I left or 20 minutes after?
Oh, no.
20 plus
15
5.
minutes, 20 past 5, yeah. About.
Ah, okay.
How's your table tennis skills?
Huh?
How's your table tennis? Can you play it?
I played last time, maybe 10
10
years
years
ago.
ago.
So
No.
I'm having fun when I'm drunk and playing table tennis. But apart
I've
from
never
that,
played table tennis drunk.
never.
Never.
Me neither. I always play hard, you know.
Always sober, always hard. But
When
you didn't research before you came?
Well, we're all telecoordinated today, good job us.
I'm so tired. I can't wait to go back to
Yeah. You know, yesterday when you went home early, today I felt exactly the same at like 3 o'clock. I was
Yeah,
like,
you want to do it.
my brain has been like 100%
did they say that they got to like 3
Why do you never go home early?
Can't bother.
You can't be bored.
Yeah, it's just it's
Like,
your habit.
You've got to walk like 5 minutes, I've got to walk half an hour. I've got to get the energy to walk half an hour.
That's enough of this.
Yeah.
Because you've still got to walk those 30 minutes.
When it's the summer, I'll start leaving early and we'll go to the pub.
Summer?
Catch up on the hours, right? Yeah.
No, but to be honest, I'm jealous about your discipline.
Yeah.
Your discipline is amazing. It's probably good. Just in a way that you do it.
No, I don't do much in the first hour though, really. Well, unless I know what I'm going to come in and do.
Yeah. I could probably do exactly the same. I was working harder when I was in Northampton.
Yeah.
And I was working longer hours as well.
Now that you're here.
And sounds good, but I work a lot after hours. After 7, 8, I get another productive part of the day.
How's your standing?
You got one at home? Christy's got one at work.
Really?
Yeah, like half their office at least have got a standing desk.
That's cool.
I'd want a chair with
I
her.
got one at my own place.
That is definitely denial.
Oh yeah, he did it. He did it.
Oh man.
Good to see you, man.
Should we move to the back now?
Put in a slider chair on the end. We can send you one.
Squeeze it, man. We need to look like
I'm not wearing my little t-shirt.
I am.
Oh yeah. Oh, we do it to represent.
Obviously, Dan. What?
Obviously, you are wearing the
Yeah, everyone knows what I do.
But you missed your t-shirt sponsor.
Yeah, it's just
yeah, man. Discipline is amazing. Mine for the day.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Almost. Yeah, to be fair, it's like 10:15 or 10 past today. So.
10 past? 10 past? So I think
That's when you get out of bed.
No. I get up around 6.
You get up at 6? Yeah. I'm still fast asleep.
Really?
Yeah. I get out of bed at 6. Really? I get out of bed at 10.
What do you do for like 5 hours? Because you already know between 10 and 11.
Read stuff?
Read stuff.
Harry Potter?
YouTube videos.
Yeah, not
About how to
read stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
You're not very young though, right? Today I did a year ago. My alarm was raised at 10.
How do you know about that?
Sleep cycle.
This is I slept at 1:20.
Measure that.
Vibration in the bed.
Vibration?
Yeah, noise, vibration and stuff like that. How much you move around?
Yeah, slept at 1:28, woke up at 7.
You went to bed at 1:28?
Yeah, slept at 12:18, woke up at 7. Yeah. Slept at 4. Where was that? Monday? Monday? Oh yeah, I was on call with someone. And then 12:17, 6.
This
1:7.
man.
Yeah, I wake up surprisingly early.
Your life doesn't exist, man. Your life is weird. You don't sleep at all. What's that?
Okay, Sunday. No, Sunday is when I'm in my business.
Sunday is when you're
I sleep a lot. Yeah.
But you wake up a lot. This one means that you're not asleep, yeah?
Yeah. Like, I wake up a lot. Wednesday,
What's this one? Like a half an hour gap here.
REM sleep. That's when you're like
Good dreams, man.
yeah. 2, 7. I don't sleep early.
Is it when I'm right?
Last time I saw
Android, I think.
So that's like thrown up or it's built into your
No, it's an app. It's called Sleep Cycle, is it?
Ah, okay.
I think there's probably an app for your phone.
Hello, Sarah. You don't mind? Hi, good man. Good, yeah. Good. You want to do it? Yeah, okay. Want to go sit on the front? Alright.
Better duck so we can see it.
Let's go.
Do you not have Wi-Fi?
Yeah, Sam told us about it. But wait a second.
My data bundle renewed today.
So
So I just used it. My phone was blowing up.
Battery like crazy.
Okay, renewed today. Oh, even though I have 6 for my left.
Matt just bought his S10.
Yeah.
Oh really?
I'm not looking into it because I didn't think
You just got that one, didn't you?
3-4 months ago?
I wasn't probably got my girlfriend. I was always home over there long days.
Sorry, we're delayed.
Is it affordable?
No, the foldable was like 1800 or 1900.
Talking about the S10?
Yeah,
What's
the
top spec? Like
yeah,
1 terabyte?
No, it's £100 less than the top spec iPhone.
You want the Britney Spears?
This is just £100.
I was like, 1800 price, man.
Can you hear me in the back?
No, that's
It's the live stream.
It's a live stream.
There is.
Oh, I didn't know.
1 terabyte.
Yeah.
There is. I've been told.
Gigs a grand.
For example, with PK office, Pakistan.
I'll try the Britney Spears.
Britney Spears might have good choice. So here's a classic.
This one. A lot cheaper than Android.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, a lot cheaper than
Like
Android.
top spec. So how about the foldable battery?
It looks ridiculous though.
It's higher in battery.
But one company got it right though. It looks
What, as a foldable? It shows it just like a render, but that's not a real phone. Real phone.
it's a popular company. Especially in Samsung, when you shut it close, the screen goes so small.
You've been hard at work, man. They should just give you a budget. And then we sort it out. What we got to look at ourselves. Who makes it? Oh, Huawei.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
I'm getting into this the same direction.
Signs of aging.
Oh, yeah, man, it's getting old.
Signs of
No, really, I don't have a computer right now. I don't have a phone. I don't have a phone. The only communication that I use is WhatsApp just because of my parents. YouTube. The rest of the thing, I could easily get my Nokia for like old Nokia 72, and which was the previous one.
Oh, I can't remember. No wonder it's the Razor. They make a new one of those.
Already.
Well, just that one. There was another one from Weird OS on it.
Weird OS.
Yeah, Weird OS.
Yeah, that's the one. 62
Mine isn't great. Yeah, that's what that's
No.
They've got a new one today, so I think.
Blue. Battery lasts for 2-3 weeks.
Play Snake all day.
It is true, right? Not days, weeks.
2-3 weeks. They sneak a lot on mine. I had the one where you can go to catch a stop.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
My dad bought me one of them.
They came with CB radios, didn't they? So you could talk to people nearby rather than phone calls. They were crazy. Yeah.
Can you recommend it? Oh, there's a streamer.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I'll be drunk after the first one anyway. Don't need to be tired. Nah, man. When we went to the pool place, the woman was like, "Oh, do you want a drink?" We were like, "No." She pulled a face like, "What the fuck?" And it was the first time someone's ever asked me for one of the donuts. I know, it happened in Poland.
Oh yeah.
One day when I was there.
That was understandable why, man.
Hello. I think that should be working. Hopefully, the live stream is also working at the back. If you don't want to be on camera because of GCHQ or something, then don't look there. So welcome back to another February LeicesterJS Meetup. We will have Paul's talk in a minute, but our Apple TV is misbehaving, shall we say. So we're going to do the JavaScript cool wall to kick it off. But just some announcements before we start. If you need the cloud Wi-Fi password, that's there. Also, come and join us on Slack and discuss. There's a lot of great discussion we're having around different technologies that people are using within the Leicester area. So by all means, join that. And also we're on Twitter and stuff, so go and follow that if you are so inclined. If you need any of the slides or want to give feedback about the talks, check out our GitHub. That's really where we'll take talk submissions and also any feedback you have. The food will arrive at about 7:30. The bar exit is here, so don't say anything alike, but if they do, then go there. And if you need the bathroom or anything, they're just out the back way you came and to the left. If you can't find them for whatever reason, ask me. There's also some anti-bac on the table because everyone has diseases today, including myself. So you can anti-bac your hands before you eat if you want as well. We are also sponsored by Cloud Call. Yes, they have generously been able to provide the food and the venue here. So if you want any more information about Cloud Call, then come and see me or Mr. Anton, the Belarusian, at the back, if you want. So next time we've got a talk by Tom. Raise your hand. There he is, from Compare the Market about delivering JS at scale. So that should be a really interesting talk. And we're really excited for that one, and that's on the 21st of March, if it's available, hopefully. Cool, so let's kick it off then with something that I don't know if will go really well or horribly wrong, which is the JavaScript cool wall. So hopefully you've already all seen Top Gear or something similar. the basic premise of the cool wall was that they sort of ranked cars on how cool they were, and that was based on sort of who would drive them and things like that. And I thought about doing one with JavaScript. So we have some lovely pictures here that were amazingly cut out by me with my extensive art and craft experience. Thank you. So yeah, I wanted to get a sort of more of a discussion going about these different technologies and sort of go through them. I don't think we'll have time for all of them. There's about 20 or something, but I thought it might promote a bit of discussion about what people are using, because I know Leicester isn't exactly Silicon Valley, so we're not using cutting edge stuff, but we are still innovating quite a lot in the Leicester area. So I wanted to see what people were using, why they chose it over something else, what people are using in personal projects, and what people are also using then in actual production environments, because that's, again, a very different ballgame most of the time. So, TypeScript, show of hands, is anyone using TypeScript at their company? Well, that's quite a lot. I didn't expect that. Yeah, we are too. Yeah, how are you finding TypeScript? I'll give you a mic, actually. I've got a mic for this. Well planned and everything.
It's an existing implementation, so it is ultimate spaghetti. The strongly typed bits are great where they're used, but anywhere they should be used and would really add value, they're using any types. So, nice idea, implementation is going to be the make or breaker of it.
Interesting. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people have found with TypeScript, that people are quite lazy and just use any all the time. Has anyone found issues like that? Has anyone found any measures of sort of to negate that in their company? Do they find that like people are using types correctly, or are the actual advantages of a strongly typed language? Well, strongly typed is a very loose term for TypeScript, but is anyone actually seeing any real advantages out of using those types?
Certainly. So where I work, we use a Spring framework for Java. So when we construct DTOs to send back as JSON down to the front end, it's quite nice to be able to assert that shape. I know that TypeScript doesn't do that, and you can give it anything and it will tell you it's what you think it is, which can be a problem. But for the most part, it's good because you know what you're dealing with and you can compare it to Java, and it works quite well with the Java framework. So I think for us, it's been quite a plus.
Yeah, no, I concur with that. We found it really helpful at Cloud Call, especially with API development. I was wondering about how else people are using it. Are people using it in conjunction with React, or are people more using it just for Node? Perhaps the Mindera guys, do you, where are you using it? I'll give you one.
So we've got multiple teams here. We all work with TypeScript heavily. These guys are working with TypeScript with React mainly. Yeah. We work on Node/AWS Lambda stuff, all TypeScript. We don't complain that much anymore, but in the beginning it was hard. Just having this idea of describing every single variable, every single argument, remembering about this typing, it was hard. But right now it's helping us a lot, especially when we use our nice IDE like VS Code or some other cool things. It helps a lot. On a React, it helps a lot in my opinion. You don't need to remember which prop is required and which one is not. You can see it. What else? We enforce not to use any type by ESLint currently, previously with TSLint. That helps a lot. It's frustrating in the beginning to get rid of any, but right now it's cool. Would you like to add anything from React side?
I think you said it all.
Yeah.
Has anyone worked with converting a JS library or app to TypeScript at all? Don't know if anyone's done that at all, but we have, and we found great results from it because it just made maintaining the app a lot more easy. But let's move on.
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry. I just wonder if people are using it to define interfaces, are they generating the interfaces from a DSL or from one side, the Java side, generating the TypeScript definition, or are they using anything where they're actually trying to match two sides up?
Yeah, I mean, so we have, we do have a .NET Core API at Carcore, as well as like all our modern stuff, which is more written in TypeScript and Node and stuff like that. We have had some stuff where we've had to like match an interface, but it's never really been too essential because there's not a whole lot of API to API communication from that side, just because of how we've got it structured. And if we have, we usually only care about the response, which is sort of just maybe like a blob of data. The interfaces are fairly generic, so we've had to convert it in places, but not generally speaking, no. Usually it's just the developer writing the interfaces they need, or if they're included with a node module or something like that, it's there. So, TypeScript then, on our board, which you may not be able to see, we've got seriously uncool, we've got uncool, we've got cool, we've got sub-zero. Where are we thinking that TypeScript's going to go? We're thinking cool.
To the right of cool, though.
To the right of cool, yeah. That is an important differentiator. Because the top here, they did sort of move it down the scale. Who would like to come and pin TypeScript on the board?
You, man. You suggested that.
Go on now.
Thanks for the nomination. You nominated
You can
yourself.
come and gather our limited supplies. There you are. We're going to the right of cool. Yeah. Bang on. Super. Thank you very much. Right. And another typing system. I don't know whether as many people would have used this. I didn't realise this was the logo even. But FlowType. Has anyone actually used this? We have. You have. You have, Luke.
Yeah.
You're being mic'd.
That's a risky proposition.
It is literally a bolt-on to React for what prop types is in React. And Flow is just, I would say, an extension of that with more defined types, but it very much is rough around the edges. It has a binary that you have to run side by side for it to transpile essentially. To me, it's about shit.
Did you? I take it you didn't choose to use Flow then?
Not at all. No.
Would you have favoured TypeScript over it? Have you done any TypeScript
No,
development?
I don't have TypeScript either.
Fair enough. You're anti-types.
I'm not anti-types. I think you should use a stronger type language if you want types, basically. That's my opinion.
How does everyone else feel about that? Using a strongly typed language, do you think JavaScript is designed?
No.
No is the answer from Luke. What is the what is the consensus from everyone else? I know, well, there's obviously a lot of JS developers here, obviously.
It depends. It depends on the project.
It depends.
Yeah.
And what makes you say that?
Well, because if you're working in a big enterprise cross-country, sorry.
That's right.
If you're working
in multi-country teams and things like that, when you might not even be in the same time zone or whatever it is, and you don't need to, intimate knowledge, then perhaps something a strongly typed system could help. But I wouldn't use it for my use case, which is like prototyping things. I want to be really flexible and be able to change things, and I think it slows you down quite a lot. That would be my opinion.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually.
In your opinion?
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a very interesting one, actually. I hadn't really considered POC stuff, really. I mean, we've got a common type set, actually, of interfaces and enums and things like that we use throughout the company. And it has worked well for us, as you say, because we work across 3 or 4 different time zones and a number of different developers. So that has worked for us. But yeah, as you say, maybe the flexibility of JS is an advantage. So going for it.
For people who are saying that Flow or TypeScript are helping them, do they have any data to back it up?
We have data from the data analyst. Does anyone have any data to back it up? as well.
From a not from
You get the mic.
Okay, from a different language point of view, we had a massive system that was still in production after about 16 years or something like that, with a large number of object types, 200 plus, 300, 400 maybe, into an object database. And we had a DSL, so we actually had a way of describing the data, and then we'd actually then generate stuff from that. That's one way of getting, but the very fact that we actually had a lot of tests, and it was a critical infrastructure project. So basically, it was a system that was like monitoring, oil refineries and things like that. We needed that sort of thing, and it really helped us over the years as people changed, as the team changed, and we had, again, a multi-country. So we had a new country come on board with a completely new culture, and it helped with the fact that we had this strongly typed system.
Yeah, no, I'd concur with that. I think that's definitely been true in our case, that types have been very, very important. What are we feeling then about Flow with the person, only Luke who's ever used it? What are we feeling?
They've stopped using it, haven't they, inside some of the Facebook, even though Facebook made Flow, they've stopped. They are starting to replace it with TypeScript.
And that is interesting.
I would say it's
on the floor.
to verge on the other side.
That is interesting, yeah. As, it has got a cool logo, I do like that, yeah. It's better than TypeScript, arguably. Who wants to come and pin on the board? I think it's got Luke's name written all over. Come on. You know,
Uncool.
I think we're going
In the big.
the letter half
On the floor.
of Uncool needs to raid the blue tank. We're going to the last half. Maybe into seriously Uncool. What do we think? You're going Uncool. Okay. Right, we've got a second one. Uncool. Super duper. Thank you. Right, now on to just ES 2018 and sort of below and the like. I know a lot of people are going to be using these tools. How much do we like all the new methods that the ECMAScript, TC39, Technical Committee 39, I don't know what happened to the other 38, but who knows, they got lost. But they are introducing some really cool features as part of the standard native JavaScript framework.
Spec.
Yeah, spec. Yeah, that's the correct word. Yeah. What do we all think about that? Are we using ECMAScript? Are we favouring now more these tools like TypeScript and flow types in favour of just plain old JavaScript? I know, Paul, probably you're going for just plain old JavaScript for POC.
That's essential for me. Yeah. It's essential improvement to language, to what we tools we use. Essential improvement.
What about you, Dave? Because I know you do a lot of POC type things, and I'm approaching you with a mic.
Oh, okay. You might have to do a bit of
Google.
What's in the newest spec? I can't remember what's in 18.
In 18, good
16 was fantastic. What a beautiful spec.
Yeah, 16 was beautiful. Yeah, we like 16. I'm just talking sort of 16 to 18. The modern JavaScript as we know it, sort of array.reduce and filter and map and sets and things like that.
With subs, it doesn't get any better. You can't really do the rest of it. You can't do TypeScript really without the underpinnings of ES6.
This is the foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And as I say, do you sort of favour more just going straight to JavaScript over TypeScript when you're doing stuff with, say, Esperino and things like that you showed us at the last talk?
Yeah, I'm not a huge typed language fan, just because it gets in the way for me, just because I'm fiddling with stuff. If I was doing, a longer term project, then maybe, but even the place where I work at the moment is not TypeScript; it's still plain old JS.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that is the more interesting point. So I suppose, as you pointed out, Paul, these types really only become very useful when you're working on maybe bigger projects with multiple developers. So having just plain old JavaScript in production is quite interesting now, I suppose, because maybe is it an older app that just hasn't been converted?
No, like less than a year old, but I don't think it really has the depth to need a typed language. Really.
At what point would you say that depth is reached?
I don't know, 100,000 lines, something like that. Something like enterprisey large.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to look at a function and go, oh yeah, that takes a number, oh, that takes an array.
Yeah.
Really, at the end of the day.
So I know you're not a big believer in TypeScript.
No.
Yeah, because you sort of think that it can be assumed what is what is needed.
We're really getting into a TypeScript argument. All right, I'm
looking for a TypeScript argument. But I was saying to someone earlier, we're aiming for just below fist fight level.
Right,
That's what we're aiming for here.
Much like what I felt CoffeeScript brought, which was some great stuff. Like without CoffeeScript, we wouldn't have had the new ES specs, right?
Yeah.
But CoffeeScript came in, everyone went, oh yeah, this is some fantastic hot shit, let's move to CoffeeScript. The people that wrote ES went, oh yeah, actually, that's some nice features. Well, we better roll them back into the main language. And then now everyone's in a position where they've got to go, well shit, now my CoffeeScript's out of date, I've got to move everything back to plain JS. And I feel like exactly the same thing is going to happen with TypeScript in a couple of years. So for me, it's hedge my bets because I feel like we're probably going to get that stuff anyway. Really.
Yeah, I suppose that's an interesting discussion. Really, is how
TypeScript can't stop them in that case because otherwise it won't go back in.
Or you could just transpile it into ES.
No, but I mean TypeScript has to get big enough and popular enough for the language itself to kind of the community to come and say like, actually we want that stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
But I get like not doing it personally, like with CoffeeScripts, like just let everyone else do it, but it still needs to get up to that popularity in order for you to.
Which I'd say it's verging on that.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question? What do people think? Sorry.
Yeah. So I've seen in other languages where they've actually adopted type hinting. So basically, you can use it if you want to. Well, I was thinking Python or whatever, but basically it comes useful when you want it, and basically then you can use it in the modules where you think you need to use it, but you don't have to use it. But you can then just run stuff across it and just check that everything conformed. Where it was like really popular interfaces, just do something. So type hinting rather than actually strong typing. I just wondered what people thought about that.
Julia.
Yeah. Did you want to say? No, she's refusing. Yes. Now that is a very interesting discussion, though. I think because I think a lot of people have fear because of the sort of story of CoffeeScript that TypeScript's going to die and things like that. I suppose don't steal my password. I suppose a lot of people have the fear that TypeScript will go the way of CoffeeScript, but I think I myself, personally, Microsoft are the big driving force behind TypeScript. React, I think, again, is something that probably isn't going to go away because Facebook is the huge driving engine behind that. And I suppose even if the React implementation itself goes away, the concepts there are going to be used in future frameworks. I suppose my question is, what decisions were made around using those sorts of technologies like TypeScript and React in production? Because a lot of people made that decision with CoffeeScript and later regretted it. Why was the decision with TypeScript and React, say, a bit different? Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Sorry, I would just say that CoffeeScript seems to have some semantic holes.
Did you not find that it had problems where it actually went wrong? So it had some semantic holes. It did that, and basically I had used it and basically found there was problems with it. But TypeScript seems to be designed more rigorously, whereas CoffeeScript seems to come about it sort of evolve out of something. I don't know.
Don't get me wrong. I think the TypeScript implementation is better than CoffeeScript ever was, but I still feel like even more so because it's better. Those features are probably going to end up in plain JS spec.
Totally agree. Yeah, I agree. And I'm happy to wait for it to come along.
So, what are we feeling for
Essentials.
ECMAScript? We're thinking
It's
Sub-Zero.
not Sub-Zero because it's like, I mean,
Controversy.
it's not. If you look at
Yeah, we're going for a mic.
non-ES JavaScript, then obviously it's disgusting. But it's just natively like it's not Sub-Zero because it's just like
It's just
too,
there.
it's too normal.
Yeah.
Like you can't live without it. But it's not like I don't know. It's not special. It's just if you don't use it, then you're wrong.
The T's and D's. So we're thinking not Sub-Zero, or are we still thinking Sub-Zero? Are we overruling? What? Hands up for Sub-Zero then.
No.
I think there's a majority there, and we are in a democracy. So, Dave, I'm gonna say we'll go for the sort of 25% is Sub-Zero. I think there is the blue tech.
25.
I think it's sort of 25 to 30% within Sub-Zero. Yeah. I think a little bit of mine. I think it's a bit fun. Yeah. That's about that. There we go. Beautiful.
I'm glad you're pleased.
Perfect. Right. Next one then. We don't have a lot of time for. Oh, actually, we should have had our pizza come. That's interesting.
Was that what the bell noise I was hearing?
Can't tell whether you're joking or not.
No, seriously, there was like a.
There's somebody
I
on the
couldn't
door
tell
as
if it
well.
was the doorbell or a phone ringing. So I didn't want to be like.
Interesting.
There's somebody on the door, so I don't think so.
That is very interesting. Okay, right. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because I'm the only one here. People are going to talk about React and make a discussion, and I'm going to go and check on Peter. That's my job. Who would like the microphones to have a bit of a discussion about React? I know the Mindera guys use React, and I know they've probably got a lot of opinions on it. Yes, you do. You're shaking your head.
I
I
don't
know
use
you
React
do.
anymore. I'm server side now.
Oh. Server-side converter.
How many people are familiar with React and use it?
Not many.
I'm giving him my. I saw that hand. I saw that hand. He's getting the mic. You can pass it around yourselves. I'll also give the mic to this man here because you put your hand up as well. So yeah, I'll be back in 1 second.
You go first then.
Okay, so what I like, what I don't like about React. I kind of don't like the.
Just speak loud.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I don't like, not the worst thing, but it goes away from this MVC architecture. It's like very bespoke, very React. Like you can leave it a little there, but yeah, I think if you have like a backend done in MVC or experience MVC, this approach is something like the things that offer React. I think good trade-off. Like React.
Food is not here yet. False alarm. We've got mics.
Need to switch on or something.
Okay.
That's weird.
I think it is working. Yeah, there we go. I think you just have to hold it very close to your face.
You didn't say anything.
So interesting. It was really wicked.
In my absence, he dodged it. Okay. Well, what are we feeling then about React? Because this is, I don't know what you're going to think. Now you get the mic back. Go on.
Personally, I've written a single page application and I'm not proud of it in a single JavaScript file, and it was 14,000 lines. This was about 6 years ago. So to be able to see something go from plain JavaScript to ES and something where you can actually break it down into components, nest those components, if you're using something like Redux, which I don't particularly like, but allows that state to be driven in that kind of big life cycle. It just makes, it's actually really nice to work with.
Yeah, no, I've found the same. I don't do
Might be, Josh.
I don't do a lot of front end.
I'm sure everyone's fed up with my voice by now.
The mic's going to Dave.
And then Mike came back. Tell me why you don't like Redux. I used to hate Redux, so this will be an interesting discussion because I used to hate it, but now I love it. So, fine.
I like the idea of Redux, and I can see the point of it, but it feels, and it's great, it's definitely a step forward, but I feel like it's a step on a journey. It feels like there's a lot of boilerplate involved. You're going a long way round to get to the destination. That's the feeling. I like it, I feel it's essential. We can talk a little bit about NGRX if you want, which I've used recently, which is potentially the worst code I've ever had to work with. Side effects in particular, and side effects triggering actions, triggering side effects, triggering modals. Yeah, I just feel like it's a step in the right direction, but it feels very, very long-winded to get that state updated.
Way too much boilerplate, I agree with you. Have you looked at hooks, the new...
I've read
it's that noise again, Josh.
Oh, that's just someone's phone
No.
ringing. Don't go about that.
I read the documentation very briefly in 15 minutes yesterday, so I have no real understanding of it.
Yeah, I looked at it and it broke my brain. Much in the same way that Redux broke my brain when I first looked at it, and anything that I look at and go, I don't understand this, means I don't like it. And then in about 6 months, when I kind of get to grips with it and have to use it, then I go, oh yeah, that's actually really great.
There is better alternatives to Redux. Like,
Okay.
Oh.
No.
The microphone. You said something.
Getting opinions.
Get the mic.
Just any other way of handling state is better.
You need some good reasoning.
I can't remember what the name of my favourite library is, but
Mobex?
no. But Mobex is better than Redux.
David's silent with rage. It's just seething out of every pore.
Redux, I don't really get what the big thing is about it. Like, it's just messy. Lots and lots of lines of extra code that obfuscates the logic. It feels very unreacty to me. You can't see what's going on in the way that React enables you to see what's going on. And like what links to what, and like, I mean, I don't think higher components are the solution, but pretty much any other way of handling state to me, like I have felt is clearer. So.
To be fair, I haven't looked at Mobex, so I can't argue for it one way or another. But with Redux and its global state management, there's been a couple of places in this app I'm working on at the moment where we started off with stuff in the global state, and then I went, no, this shouldn't be here, and I had to rip it all back out and put it into a local state for those components. So it definitely doesn't fulfill all use cases, but then there are definitely parts of the app where if it wasn't in global state, we'd be in one hell of a state of having to like pass that around somehow, like adding another high order component or something equally disgusting. So I think it has its merits. There are probably it's a step.
Like
it's a step on the path to the solution of the journey.
Yeah, it sounds like it's doing something valuable in whatever you're working on, but like it sounds like you're, I don't know, dealing with it rather than loving it.
I think I still love it. But yeah,
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Redux syndrome now.
Love me.
Now, no.
Yeah, no, it's good. I still like it, but yeah, I agree there should be
But like,
something better. But maybe hooks is that better
It
thing.
sounded like your major argument for it was that it's painful to do it any other way, rather than it's joyful to do it with Redux.
Can I still be joyful about things? Do I want to listen to myself talk anymore? Not really. I think it still sparks my joy in that it kind of does just work. Once you've got it to the point where you've got your boilerplatey things set up, I can just go, here's my action, deal with this. And especially when you add some extra middleware things like thunks. I can't get on with sagas, but that's a different story. Add thunks in, and then suddenly magically all of your async stuff just works for flipping 5-line middleware. It's just genius.
You need like genius on the team who struggled with it.
No, there's only 2 of us. Sorry, I don't have any genius. Yeah. But I don't feel like it would be that difficult to explain it to someone that hadn't seen it before. Could be wrong.
No, I disagree with this one personally. In my opinion, I hated Redux at first. When I saw it for the first time, I hated it. It was very difficult, and as long as you're building only to-do apps, you're gonna hate it. But if you're gonna jump on a little bit bigger application, this boilerplate actually makes tons of sense. It's not actually that much boilerplate. It's like 2 lines, 2 objects. It's not that much. But I agree, there are some better solutions. I like context that comes with React. Sorry, it's nice. It was a little bit difficult to do it properly, but right now with hooks abstracts it in a way that it's super easy to do it right now. But I don't like hooks. So.
What?
Yeah.
That was a joke, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. I don't like hooks. But okay, that's a different conversation. But I wish to know a little bit more of your reasoning why you hate so much Redux, because that's interesting. But I need reasons, like solid reasons, not
sure,
because.
Well, I'm working on quite a big code base. I don't know how many lines of code there are.
Lots.
Shitloads. I work at Competitive Market. And we have a large team of people at different levels, and a lot of people coming in and out. And we do a lot of, like, we have a lot of juniors, and we also have a lot of grads, and I think that's really important, especially with these languages that lend themselves to beginners a bit better than other languages do. And I think that to love something because it does the job better than anything else out there is just like settling for less.
Can you give me like alternative? What would be a tool that you can replace Redux with today?
On the project, I guess I'd have to spike something like a bunch of different alternatives out. But
I 100% agree with you about the learning. I 100% agree with you with the learning curve for junior developers. Redux is nightmare to learn, especially about the whole ecosystem, whole like middlewares, like set of middlewares that you can smash into it. It is hard.
But I mean, I feel like this ecosystem as well, like that with like JavaScript in general and React is all about making it understandable.
Let's be stick to React.
Yeah, so our React has turned into our Redux has turned into a black box of stuff that no one really. So it's a few of us that understand it, and but really because you said it once, you boilerplate it and then it works. People that come in don't have to touch it very often. And it's become a large area of pain for a lot of our developers, especially like juniors and grads, like Steph says. We are looking at ways we can remove Redux from all of our React apps now and use GraphQL and context and hooks.
Apollo link.
Pardon?
Apollo link.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Whatever we can to reduce the flow of passing massive bits of data around, and use kind of state component state instead.
I'm loving this conversation. I'm going to interrupt though. What are we thinking for React?
We're talking about Redux, mate. Sorry.
I don't have a Redux one. No, I wish I had, because this went a bit more Reduxy than Reacty.
I think you can just cut bits off that one and it'll become.
I think so. Why not? Yeah. We'll call this the React Redux logo for sure. There you go. Better picture. What are we thinking then? We're thinking seriously uncool, cool, or Sub-Zero? What are we thinking? I think personally, the concepts and the things that React has introduced warrant its place well and truly in the Sub-Zero category.
Yeah.
I think there's consensus. Everyone's nodding. I'm going to go with yes. Who would like to come and
keep
pin?
it as just React and not React Redux?
Yeah, we'll keep it just React. Would you like to come and pin the React logo on the board into the Sub-Zero category? There you are. Raid the blue tech supplies. With that, we also now have food. So we've got food, barely any of the technologies I had lined up, but that's fine. I'm glad we had a really great conversation about this. And if you guys enjoyed this sort of type of topic, then yeah, we'll definitely do it again because I've quite enjoyed this actually. So yeah, brilliant. If you want to go grab food, and I'll go set up the Apple TV and try and bash it into shape. I think past the yes.
Right.
I think past the yes. Yeah. I think it's there. I think it's well and truly into the Sub-Zero category. But yeah, thank you very much, guys, for participating. It really helps, and yeah, really enjoyed that. So yeah, go grab pizza and anti-back your hands so you don't give people consumption. Thank you. Yes, exactly.
I didn't know about this when I looked at Redux is difficult.
Yeah.
Okay. I've never heard that.
The first time you heard of Redux, did you like run your own app?
Yeah. I'm told later on I heard Redux is hard. I think people just go with something that's hard, and then it's hard.
You know Sindre?
I can't remember. Well, so I started using it like 18 months, 2 years ago, at least, when I was doing Blade, and then
Always technology. Honestly, don't go and talk to the people with Dave's opinions because you fall off.
You'll have to give me like a time limit. You have to like start. You have to start a timer.
You keep talking.
And I can just have 5 minutes throughout the entire evening.
You keep talking, we'll keep listening.
Gregory? Is it Margarita? No, it isn't.
When you're under pressure to configure something, are you enjoying it? Yeah. Are you a programmer?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, really? That's really nice. Yeah. You learning?
Yeah, I think some course on Udemy.
Okay. Yeah. That's brilliant. Yeah, that's really good. There's a guy out there actually. He's got white hair called Jeremy.
I have to quite tons of questions about hooks every single day to get
He's got his first job as a coder. And you know, like you, he's not in your side.
Why is this not doing this?
What do you do for work? Okay. Oh, brilliant.
I used to study in India. 4 years ago.
Yeah, it came out like 2 weeks ago.
Wow. Okay. You got a bunch of things. Wow. Okay.
Then the day after that,
Do Android and stuff.
oh yeah,
But it's a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Whereabouts in India?
we have like there's like more
It's in the west.
The West. Okay.
we have more
It's such a big place.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's quite confusing for beginners like me to get down the industry.
Yeah.
It's a big
Are you sort of looking to get a job as well?
What version of stuff together?
Yeah, I don't think that's
I don't know people like doing this job. I don't feel like I'm not being doing
Since the bunch of previous ones as well.
kind of meetups make me feel like okay, I'm familiar with the environment.
Yeah.
Is it as simple as like foundational? Yeah,
I'm afraid I'm appreciating
I just need for the entire day.
I'm angry. Thanks. You need to go and get it. What was that? What number of the side episode? You said on Friday, right? Town hall.
I was wondering why it was burning in here. Oh, sorry. I'm sure you would have made rice or something. made a very bad decision. I was going to go around. My drawing you paid for your toilet. No computer like shit. I can't.
About laptop, you always do now, or you don't go on laptop?
I have to make sure I have my phone on full dark mode.
You got a flux?
Yeah, my it's
good. Oh, it's a PS4.
Well, no, I just say stuff.
And don't stay in the office.
Yeah.
Really have one more password. Really password? Hold on.
Yeah.
That's big, right?
Look at this for your track. That's wasted. I don't know what's like. I'm not going to walk.
Unless I use the mouse on the desktop.
Mother's night.
What was it again? JavaScript. What's M again?
Have you seen them article that I posted on a technical about the markup and how screen readers and screen readers read a markup. Why actually markup is so important.
Why is my code complaining because I hate
It sounds like one of the
My girlfriend trying to learn L.I. You can't put it in why? But it works. I'm like, yes, it's going to work. But then you can't put it in. But it's showing. I'm like, yes, it's showing. It's not put it in.
That's what I was when you're going to get a token, it's the same, we're going to make stuff done.
We're in Portugal. We're not gonna be give you output. Are you authorized or not? Are you authorized and what kind of permission you get? And now, give you an object and returns an object. Object with token or object with permission level. That's my problem. All these things are extremely easy when you like when you look at them when you look at them like from when you look at just one service. The purpose of one service is super easy, but plug them in properly. That's the hard thing.
You get pizza. Just do your file, just like that. And then what if it gives you a response? Because I need a URI to
Yeah. No, it returns the object from object because it's an object, yeah? It's object, but it stores a little bit more than just the information about the file. It doesn't work like FTP where you drag and drop and you copy a file and you get URL to a file. You get information to an object and the content information about objects, like when it's stored, what is the storage level of this object. Yeah, you definitely know that. Yeah, URL to your packet. Yeah.
That's also like this I told you I write down that. Yeah, and then for push button integration.
Can we just shuffle there and plug into the
HDMI? Yeah, we could do. We might have to do that as a backup.
Gregory, like, inside about 500 different things every 5 minutes.
I can do this. No, I can't find it either. In the past 3 months, Python, Java, now you're doing this.
I'm not a Python developer, I'm a Java developer. I just learned some core principles. You should try it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what?
Too much.
You don't need to be like I can Python does generators.
Yeah, because it's weird to have a shot on your own.
It's good to know.
Like force and give.
You have it yet, but you don't have it.
Also just use keyword.
We're not doing by programming.
Yeah.
You can compose in a weird way,
I think you can do it with the yield asterisks and pass it to the generator. But Python is just Python generator can generate the
This stuff that can be about everything. But they are also
and this guy was on Python. The very elegant. The next value is not yielding until you You can make computations very lazy and everything makes the computations so lazy. Oh my god.
Usually it's from your perspective. When you finish doing it, it's like you can get it very easily. You're a waitress. You should go like Google ads on Facebook.
For like a year. Just because I'm good.
Still good girl.
I don't blame the company. I think it's straight reviews. Basically just go in and change it. You put this on 4 years in school, like some boys are just okay, you're gonna come up
This makes no sense. I really don't you might have seen it, come back to doing
yeah.
It's not like, this is not logical.
You say bad.
I wake up at 3, 4. I think you do everything after that. You use it and you get more money than what you do right now.
What do you think about Redux? Do you like Redux, Mr. Gregory? Why?
Because it took 6 months to design. I argue because of the
Redux is modeled after Capsule.
Why?
Judging from my question. I didn't know it was though. It is. You subscribe. Yeah. And then it, I saw your handle. Yeah, it's observer pattern. It's observer pattern. It is. Yeah, that's why I like it. It's a very good use of it. It's how it's a whole shit ton of complex infrastructure. I can confidently all these classes and stuff.
Which one's that?
Most of the classes. AWS is probably huge teams.
Yeah, or SNS, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah. Like if it's written properly,
I agree. So when we had it on Neil Barrett, it's amazing.
It is amazing.
But when I used it previously, it was like not as good. I think the current project also is like not terrible design. Neil Barrett's was so like incredible too. Yeah.
It was good, but
oh, okay, so there was problems with it, but the problems weren't with Redux. There were problems with
implementation.
The implementation was too strict and you couldn't do things. Like they hid away stuff that the API gave you, which was, and you could never
participate in a conversation when something like that is happening and you actually have a good reason to participate.
My opinion is people approach things.
The point of this kind of conversation. That's the point of conversation, to exchange your opinion. No one is going to blame you for having a different opinion, and that's the point of our discussion.
People say it's difficult, very engineering, but I'm sure.
And you have to agree.
No, I think it's the mindset. I'm not sure if this is just with me, but before I learned Redux, I didn't really know the community's opinion about it. I just said, oh, my uncle was like, oh, learn React.
Yeah, man.
And I was like, okay, I did it. And then it was like,
how many people were like, Redux is amazing. Dan Abramov tweets doesn't like it, and everyone hates it.
Yeah.
Everyone's opinion on it, they don't like Redux. 6 months ago, it wasn't that. Yeah, there is.
My uncle was like, learn React. I was like, okay. Then afterwards, like, Then Redux, look up Redux, and I took it, and I read the docs, and then I learned it so easy.
If Dan Abramov changes jobs, no one will use Redux.
It's probably true.
Guaranteed.
It's so, like, I don't know.
I don't know, I don't follow them.
You only follow 100 people, and one of them's me, so...
No, right now I follow 107 because I follow all the speakers in the conference, but after conference I'm gonna I need to follow them to know
Yeah,
what
those
they're
leaders,
about.
they drive the community so much. Yeah, everywhere. Look at this guy. That home in Redux. Now we
Yeah. I would never put React
above ES.
Above ES.
Yeah, man. I'm regretting my TS side. Well, I think it needs to go to the left a little bit.
It was weird to compare ECMAScript to TypeScript.
TypeScript, yeah.
It's just TypeScript doesn't exist without ECMAScript. It was weird to compare them.
And now, Mobex is trying to do that string.
I don't know, I don't follow anymore, man. Okay, AWS keeps me busy. And I'm enjoying it. Having a break from front end is amazing.
I wish I could open a browser and do stuff I just realized. That's the worst thing.
Sure, that part is quite daunting. Oh, look at the Jason. It's beautiful. Do you see that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my terminals are pretty colours, so yeah.
Look at Jason. Jason has animations.
Have you seen what I tweeted? I won't show you because I don't have a Twitter, but can you check your tweet? Have you seen?
I just want to get your likes and retweets up.
Why don't you Twitter?
I removed it from my phone. But have you seen what's gonna join CSS spec?
Oh yeah, map
functions.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, it's crazy. In my opinion, it's the biggest thing in CSS that happened after.
I can't wait to see what somebody uses arctangent for though. Like
one of those weird animations.
Or anything like weird like that. Like it's like.
For animations, for free. Clamp between values, so you're clamping value between 2 and 10. So for example,
so there's just like a shorthand.
No. Imagine that you can say font size 10 pixels times 0.1 VH. So relative value, so the font size is always going to grow, and you're clamping the value between this one and this one. Yeah, so the value, your browser is growing,
like Lotus,
for example. Yeah. It's a perfect use case for amazing function. Very useful.
Clamp is implemented with like min-max.
Yeah. Because you can min-max doesn't work exactly.
Okay, we didn't grow with it.
Yeah. On JavaScript you can implement clamp with max min and in a parenthesis minimum value and max value blah blah blah. Yeah, I know that. But in CSS it doesn't work like that. With the CSS you cannot nest functions. You can use just one function.
Which of you will be the first for the self-lacing?
See, I would like to
Yeah?
Right, I'm going to. Then you actually.
CSS custom properties.
Silence is dispersed. Right, we've now got our talk, now that I've wrangled the Apple TV to behave itself. We've got Paul Muston, who's going to give us a talk on the Jamstack, whatever that is. Hopefully it's as delicious as it sounds. Take it away, Paul.
Hello everyone. So context for this talk, it's a bit of a whiteboard Friday type talk rather than a really, this is like the whole topic. So it's really just what I've discovered, and I'll tell you how I got started after this slide. So it's an ongoing experience, no opinions. I'm not selling an opinion, but yeah. And the other pizza question obviously was if anyone wants to go to me afterwards, they can ask me a question, but feel free to dive in. We are very limited with time, and I've got quite a few slides. I thought if you had a bit more time, but we'll see how we get on. I'll jump through the things that I think are less relevant. I? I run this company called Newsoft. Started coding when I was 14, back in 1974. And doing it professionally since about 78, 79. So I've been in the industry quite a while. And the last 15 or so years, I'm mainly doing proof of concepts for stuff. So basically, the R of R&D, I guess, is the main thing. But additionally, I do have some startups, some SaaS products that basically mainly started off as projects on the side, I guess, but still serve customers. And I get involved in companies where I can invest and perhaps even invest time to actually drive them technically. So that's what I do. So Jumpstack. So this is how I became aware of Jumpstack. I was watching Maximilian Schwarzmuller, if anybody knows him. He talks lots about React and Angular and Vue and things like that. Has lots of courses on Udemy, which is where I often self-learn about anything that I want to learn about. It's really cheap, $10, and you're away. You don't have to watch all the videos. You just go and dive in the bits you think, well, what's interesting, and even if you use, an hour of material, it's paid for itself in the first 5 minutes, really. But it's great. So he came up with this review of web development in 2019. He mentioned this thing called Jumpstack. I've been very aware of static web pages beforehand, having in the early days dabbled with Ruby, and also came across static static pages there. But I was working on a project at that time when I came across it. I was actually working from my house in Greece at the time, and so I had a fair bit of time to do things. I had no direct pressure to do things. So when I heard about it, I thought I'll just have a look at implementing this thing as I was implementing, which happens to be a re-implementation of a website for a series of books that one of my colleagues wrote. We've got both colleagues of mine, one retired now. This book came out about 2010. I did an implementation back then for some inside. There's a series of exercises. It's all about process control. But this book is an ISA or equivalent of IEEE bestseller. So the website gets loads of traffic, and I'll give you a quick demo of what sorts of things you can do with it. But basically, you draw a diagram, and then basically there's all these waveforms that occur. And basically, it operates in real time, and it's a real-time system. And as you change the parameters, the waveforms change. You get an understanding about process control and partial differential equations, basically, a lot of it in different ways. So Jumpstack, it really is just this modern web development architecture. Mainly, it's client side. This is the thing about it. Really, is the fact it's if you're a JavaScript person, you do lots of client side stuff, then it really allows you to do a lot of stuff you perhaps couldn't do before. If you didn't know about DevOps and things like that. So JavaScript APIs and markup is the JAM in Jam. So Jumpstack. So traditionally, how web pages are generated, you all know all this. That basically HTML is generated from server-based views and browser, and obviously HTTP feeds back into the views. And if you've got a front end, then basically you have an API with a browser front end. But static pages, or particularly way that it's done if you use things like Netlify, is the fact that you locally edit your page, push it to Git, and all magic happens, and your code gets refreshed on the web. That's what it's about that. The advantage of static web pages is this much smaller attack surface. There's basically just web pages out there on a VPN or something like that. You don't have to do the DevOps to keep update your servers. It's all done for you. It's like serverless
those sort of things. It's very performant because it's actually out generally where people are in their particular part of the world, so basically delivered through VPNs. Can be SEO friendly because obviously it's not generating lots of web pages dynamically. And I think one of the key things that the Jamstack people like about it is the fact that it's this emancipation of the front-end developer, allows them to do more stuff. Okay, so this is the book, this Control Loop Foundation book. It's got these dynamic systems. It's been running on a system, I think, I don't know, 20 so it basically, I guess, it was developed in ASP.NET back in the day, and then the bit that is the dynamic bit was developed using jQuery, and this was back in 2010. And then this late 2018, they asked me to do a refresh of it because it was getting a bit unstable. The version of IIS they were using was no longer supported, even the server wasn't supported anymore, and so they needed to do something about that. So I first thought of using Django, which is a go-to tool for me for doing this sort of simple throwing up some web pages, perhaps using Markdown or something like that. And then for the real-time part, Go and Vue.js. But partway through the implementation, I was about, I don't know, week, 10 days into it, and then I saw that this particular thing about Jamstack, and I thought, oh, what if I could do it using Jamstack? Because I got them to do all the, basically it would allow, take some of it out of my hands, I could just concentrate on the real-time part. There's obviously various static site generators around. Jekyll was the one that I used back in the day with Ruby, and obviously powers GitHub pages. Gatsby is obviously gaining momentum. Hugo is pretty good. I use that for the implementation of this, in actual fact. It's a Go-based system, very, very fast to rebuild the site. And because I use Go, I knew about its templating, so it was okay. So these are some of the just subject matters. So I used Hugo. Okay, it's not JS based, but there's a lot of JS in the bit that was developed around it. Say the advantage of it was really fast. And all you need to do is, on my machine, just brew install Hugo, and it basically just installs a pre-compiled binary, really. And you just then create a new, say I want to create a new site, and tell it you want to use a particular theme, and then you're off. And I'll show you what that looks like. The configuration is really simple as well. Normally, you just basically have what the base URL is going to be, language, title, and what theme you're using. I'm sure everybody's familiar with Markdown. It's DSL that was generated for blogging, but really its history goes way back into the 60s. Things like Runoff, that's from Multics, mid-60s, I believe. And obviously all the version of TROP and all these things, parts of Unix have picked it up and used it in various ways in the future. And it's about the semantics, not the detail of your what it is you want to write. Very simply, these are the sorts of things, you can type the stuff on the left and the stuff appears on the right and HTML. Very, very simple. So I'm sure everybody's familiar with Markdown, so I won't go into that. Very simple example. Okay, so from this site I created, this is a typical page. There's some front matter here. This bit at the beginning is the front matter, so there's a title, dates, and if it's draft or not, and then some text, and then some links probably down below. So that's some of the content of the book. What I'll do is I'll quickly show you what it looks like. Okay, so very simply, it's got some very simple
parts to the site. But the most important thing is in this workshop area, you can go down into a particular workshop and then look at the exercise. Basically, you go through the exercise in the book, draws the process diagram, and you can go to a thing called the workspace, where it basically allocates an instance of a running runtime system that basically has a number of these modules running in a very specific system called Delta V, which is the people who I work for produce this thing called Delta V. It's used by control people all around the world for controlling things like water plants, oil refineries, chemical plants, pharmaceuticals, like Viagra is produced by using Delta V, big oil refineries, lots of it up in Scotland, oil rigs and things like that as well. And basically the idea was to actually try and make it look like the runtime of Delta V, and that you click on these blocks and you can basically then change parameters about the blocks, or you can just change something like this disturbance here and make that 10. And what happens when you change these things? It did change. It's just slow. Don't know why it's so slow here. But these numbers will start changing. It's polling this, and you see the numbers here to the right of the heat process. You see that number's slowly changing, and you can then go and look at a chart here. Okay. So it basically shows you what's happening in the system. So it basically
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. So what this is actually doing is it's allocated you uniquely an instance of this module that's running, and there's so we have on the current system we have I think 2 servers, each of which have 10 copies of each module. So when you go into this, you actually get allocated a particular instance that you use exclusively, and if anybody else comes in, they get allocated a different instance. And so this site, which is a static website, for the majority of it, there's just this tiny bit of the process that actually there's 2 controls. This view. Sorry, you can actually just change. You can go on here and see what's going on. This is just a D3 type chart. You've got your private copy of this, and basically anybody else is doing it on a different browser. They would see different numbers. Their copy that they've been allocated. Yeah. So I'll quickly show you how that was put together. So how it works in this particular static site generator is the fact you actually use the folder structure to determine where things are going to end up being. But also within each, so if we go down here, if we look in the pages section, that's basically just straightforward markdown pages. When you go into the workspace area, you're actually using these specific pages that have the controls on, and that's how they get how the HTML gets generated is based on these templates based on where they are, so that the chart HTML would be generating anything that was in this chart folder. Workshops would be anything that's in the workshop folder, and basically it's just slightly different templates that get created for this. So not particularly interested for JavaScript people, but just to show you, it looks very similar to how you normally create a website. So in the workspace, it has these extra bits of JavaScript and CSS that gets preloaded and loaded down below. And that's so only if you go into a workspace page does it even try and load that stuff. When you actually are on a workspace page, this is what the page actually looks like. That particular subpart of the page, the workspacey bit, the sub component, and all it's doing is creating a custom control basically, and that just gets it's what's a so-called shortcode that gets used to generate a specific piece of HTML, a snippet of HTML that's put in place, and that then is using a view component. Okay, how it's deployed is this public server and then 2 private Delta V machines that are obviously doing the real-time work. It's just Nginx serving the static pages, of which about 30% of them pull real-time stuff. Yeah, so there's a single Go process. Mainly actually there's this proxy to the Delta V system, so basically anything that comes from the JavaScript goes through. And obviously that's proxy they're going through Nginx, so you don't have any cause problems. Yeah, but the key thing about the Go part is the fact it does everything in memory. So it stores who's got what, as it holds the state, and the state's only there for 10-15 minutes anyway. So if it ever did crash, it hasn't so far. If it did, you're just losing who's connected to what, and if it restarts, then they'll just find they're connected to a fresh copy of the module. Okay. So other ways of deploying this. So basically, when I deployed it, basically you're just pushing the static web pages into the area that's served by Nginx. There's obviously lots of other ways of deploying static web pages. Obviously GitHub pages, obviously people have probably done that already. The thing that seems to be this AWS Amplify is a coming thing. I don't know much about it, but I think it's trying to do this sort of hosting of static stuff. But Netlify is the interesting player in this area. The guy who one of the founders of Netlify termed the Jamstack. So, presume everybody knows what a content delivery network is, but I'll just quickly go over it for those who don't. It basically just pushes your content out to the edges of the network, near where people are. So if you're in Australia, you don't have to wait for this stuff that's coming from Austin or San Francisco or wherever. It's basically pushed out into edge servers near you, and this makes it fast. So basically reducing the latency of delivery of your thing. And obviously the advantage of that is spike handling. So if you get /dotted or whatever it is that happens, then obviously somebody else's problem to do the scaling. An example of this is Cloudflare. Netlify say that they are an ADM rather than a CDM. So basically it's all about deploying your application rather than just your content. And this is the difference. So this is the workflow for Netlify. You do your local edit, you push to Git. Obviously there's a webhook that gets called, or HTTP call gets calling the webhook into Netlify, which runs the generator, which then takes your source code, does whatever it does to generate static pages, then pushes out the CDN. It does that atomically, apparently. So basically, there could be no inconsistency of your content. And obviously, then your browser picks that up. Okay, so a very simple example of that. Here is something that I've done. Again, this is using Hugo, but I could just quickly edit a file. In fact, probably because we're limited to time, I probably won't actually do the core demonstration. But basically, you can just edit a file locally, push it through GitHub, and basically it would then update in the actual live site, which is the license system. So basically, very, very simple process. So basically what you're doing when you use Netlify is you're sending your build process and getting them to execute it for you. And so all you're doing is updating your GitHub repository or your repo, and basically it's doing the work for you. And it does that really, really quickly, within 20 seconds or something like that. If you do a push, and it's like updated. And there are people running things like clocks using Netlify, doing continually, like updating their GitHub repository. 1 second is basically updating the clock on a web page as a test, not as any serious implementation, but just to show that it could be done. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Yes, and all I had to do really to do that was to actually say what my repository was. I could build using one of their standard templates, or just tell it. I think they just tell it on another page what the actual build command is, and so that basically is like a Docker container, and basically just said it. So you just point it at the repo and tell it what the build command is, which happens to be Hugo, and basically will then generate the push it publicly, and obviously you can then point at that using your domain DNS. Okay, so Netlify it's really quite good for, it's free to use to start off with, if you're within certain limitations. It's great for doing Jamstack experimentation. You can start simple using this automated deployment from a repo, but then you can start doing things like it does have functions, serverless functions, has identity. You can do forms. It'll actually they'll store the media for you. So it's quite full. You can actually do management access control if you like on your pages even. So you can either just use a password or you can use JSON Web Tokens, JWT, to actually do access control of your things, but you have to pay for that. You can do, so there's other things you can do, not just Markdown. Obviously, you could say Jam is markup or Markdown. I think it's, if you think it's markup, you can actually use other domain-specific languages. So one example is you can actually create a very simple URL shortener, just using their redirects definition language. They have a little, very simple way of defining redirects, and so I've actually not got a short URL for this. I've just got let's do /edit. So I've basically done a redirect on this thing to point to the actual redirects DSL, if you like. So if I go in here and just do it with nothing, and it goes to the Meetup site. If I go there with /edit, it also goes to this thing. We could actually go to the Meetup. I'm just picking. Oh, so I should prove that it doesn't work. So if it would have worked. I'll just we'll just type /Meetup. Let's save that. Let's save that here. Let's quickly go back to where I was. I'm sure probably already have updated. Yeah, so basically it was that quick. So basically I just edited it, committed that change, and it basically was already working. We already deployed it. So that's like quite, how quickly you can do updates. Oh yeah, so things like MathJax is another thing. It's the sort of thing you can write these simple expressions and basically converts it into a piece of maths. So I was doing some work with the maths department at Leicester, and we were playing. They had quite a lot of this sort of stuff. So again, you could have statically deployed that, using this as your DSL, your domain, your markup language. Another one that does graphics, Plant UML, I don't know if you've seen that. Basically, it's just a little description here. The bit of text here describes that UML diagram. And it obviously could be way, way, way more complicated than this, but I'll just go to a very small example. But again, if you think about using Java APIs and markup, then this markup you can do is obviously, just think about it as a simple way of defining something that if you understand how that language works, you can edit it really quickly. I did this for this. Plant UML is like a strange name for this, because I actually did a very quick DSL to show how the piping in the plant was connected up, and it was just using these sort of like arrows saying this is connected to that, this is connected to that, this is connected to that, and things. And it basically redrew the diagram based on based on all these connections. So basically it defined a network, and obviously then it redrew what that network would look like. So these DSLs, I know people use DSLs, but I use DSLs all the time. For a CMS, content management use case, obviously WordPress is obviously the big player in this space. As you've probably all heard the stories that basically I think about 11 days between you updating WordPress, it gets hacked. So if you think about using static pages, obviously it reduces that attack vector greatly. Now I really like the idea of having editing content in one place, then having it triggering static generation of that somewhere else that is nothing to do with, so we've got no clue as to where that publishing of the content you've edited has come from. And I think that's quite powerful. And these things like headless CMSs, and I think what I want to try to get across in the talk is the fact that when I was exploring this area, I came across lots of things I just haven't been aware of before, like headless CMSs, and it's like, oh, okay, that's a thing. So yeah, the flavour of the ecosystem, if you like. And the big player in this whole area is obviously Gatsby. So I would say this is really sort of is a static. It doesn't really generate static web pages, but it basically statically deploys a single page application. Is the way I sort of like to think about it. What I like about Gatsby is it's a universal framework in a way that it uses relatively few big concepts, but it reuses them all over the place. I mentioned GraphQL. Obviously, it's just built on GraphQL. There's GraphQL everywhere in Gatsby. And if you get good at GraphQL, then you just fly with it. So you have to think about relatively few things. It's obviously powered by React, and I'm sure people here have proved already that they know far more about React than I do. How you create a Gatsby site is simple, very simple. npx command, creating a new blog based on a starter site. Obviously, it has React everywhere. For people, I'm sure everybody understands React and has used React, but basically, it's basically just the whole idea of React is just JavaScript everywhere. I particularly am a Vue.js fan. I like the idea of view model, model view model type stuff. But what I do acknowledge is the fact that React is great for the database publishing. So when you're actually generating pages, I really like the way React works. Not so keen on the updating, but that's just my opinion. I'm not trying to put that on anybody, but there is a huge ecosystem to be had behind this. I won't do the React demo because everybody understands that already. So with GraphQL, how I've started using GraphQL on lots of different platforms now. I use it in some of my Python prototypes. Start using it more in the Go, and obviously typically using Node.js, which is quite easy. But really, the whole idea behind it is you build a schema for your data, and then you build these series of resolvers that get called, and you basically are responsible for getting the data out of wherever it comes to present it to GraphQL so that it can then run all its query, so its projection and selection type stuff on the data you create. In some languages, that's all like mashed up into the way the ORM works. So if you ORM works nicely with it, then obviously it will work quite efficiently. But I think what I would like to do is check what the actual SQL that's generated and see if it's as good as, or generally it should be generally better than I could write myself naively. So yeah, that's the sort of thing. And then when you actually want to change stuff, you use these things called mutators, which basically take the content that comes back, and actually you're responsible for updating your data. Very simple schema. So it's basically type schema, character name appears in episode, query is hero based on you pass it an episode and it returns character. So this is a sort of typical query. You basically can the query part. Oops, sorry. Mouse doesn't seem to be coming up the screen, but basically the bit on the left is the bit you type in, and the bit on the right is what gets returned. And you can basically select which parts, which things you want to select out of the data that hero can return. You can say, I just want its name. That's fine. Yeah. And the power of it really is the fact you can actually have multiple queries in the same statement. And then basically you don't have to do multiple gets to get the data. You can actually pile it into one query and it all comes back. And you can then pick out the stuff you want at the remote end. And within... Okay. I think here it says the upper border of the disciplines. I think so. It's not turned blue yet. Okay. So how Gatsby is different to the Hugo use case, where the Hugo you tend to put stuff in a file hierarchy, and it basically goes and then plucks out from that by introspecting the file system as to what your website, what web map's going to look like. Whereas in Gatsby you have a different way of doing that. There are some hooks at the beginning in your index.js file. In fact, there's some other configuration files that basically these hooks are in that basically tell it where to find files. You start searching, and you basically are using GraphQL on the file system. So basically there is a whole load of these sources plugins. One of them is the file system. The Gatsby source file system is one of them. And you basically run a query on that. So you just run a query and it basically pulls the stuff back, and you just then plug that into your React template. So fairly, but it's this thing all over the place. So if you've got any pages you want to create data for, it's basically the same story all the way through. There's normally a chunk of GraphQL and then your React, and then obviously that may invoke a whole load of other React components, but that's how the pages get generated. Again, another thing I came across while I was doing this was this whole idea of Remark, which is a sort of a unified pipeline for processing Markdown. I hadn't come across that before. I'm used to writing compilers, so I understand about how ASTs work, these abstract syntax trees. It basically generates a whole series of nodes for the bits that are inside your what your Markdown is. Obviously, that basically is various pieces you've got in there that basically break into components, and you can then run little utilities across the tree, only updating certain types of things. So if you want to do spell checking of a particular part of your Markdown, you can do that. Or if you want to go and pluck out bits and create a table of contents from that, you can do that. And this was like, wow, I haven't come across this before. So Remark is part of that, and that's basically, so you create this little pipeline. You basically have these little JavaScript plugins, linting or whatever it was, and then basically you just run a pipeline across calling those things. Very straightforward. Again, I don't know if people come across this unified. So this is a whole thrust of people trying to get together, a consortium of people to try and unify this whole processing of Markdown, or doing text processing, particularly not necessarily Markdown, but text processing. This MDX is quite nice. I think I've got an example here. So you can actually then intersperse like React components within your Markdown. So here's an example of a simple component being called within Markdown. Yeah, and that basically again is another pipeline of things where you basically pull a whole load of things together, and basically you then run it through. And this is very typical that you'd have done in Unix if you're using troff or something like that. You'd actually start doing text processing. It's just going back to the old days of pipelines for doing these things. I'm sure that same pattern's used throughout, that I'm not aware of, but in Node and things like middleware and things like that. So that sort of idea, I guess. So, getting towards the end now, where am I going with this stuff? So, I'm interested in using it for sort of database publishing. It's an very old idea, but we have these, in the people I do lots of research for, have these massive configs, which are basically exports from huge object databases, and this describes like the hundreds of thousands of sensors and actuators that are in a process control plant. Imagine a multi-square mile oil refinery. There's a lot going on, and these things describe how that interacts. It can include visual programming languages that describe how the control works. It can specify how the network talks to how devices communicate to each other, because it has to be reliable communication. So basically, things have to, you have to know that it's going to, talk. It's going to get that packet of information within, 10 milliseconds or whatever it is. So it's like it's like hundreds and hundreds of different objects types in there. But in actual fact, often there's not that many of each type, so it's one of these like very broad, very shallow systems. And there's some subset of that information we'd like to publish. And we have done in the past, we've published things like into creating AutoCAD diagrams that describe how things connect together, because they describe, this software is describing what in the old days was probably done using circuits or wiring, and now it's all done with virtual LANs and virtual private networks and things like that. So it describes some of this, and we want to publish some of this stuff. We want to, because it's often in critical infrastructure, we really want to reduce the number of moving parts. So if something breaks down or whatever it is, I was literally in one plant, and they said something like, "If you smell almonds, you're dead." It was like the piece of safety advice on the way to the plant. So thank you very much. So I was like, and I went into the control room, and there was 4 people in the control room, and there was 2 bunny suits on the wall. I looked at one of the guys, and he was like really big guy. I'm never going to get his suit. But the other 2, I might just be able to bend them off while I get the other suit on. Yeah, they do some of these things just to like get the point across to you that you have to take safety seriously in these places. But yeah, so that's sort of thing. Obviously, Bhopal, if you remember that, tens of thousands of people died when a process plant went wrong. So they like to have the Food and Drug Administration, particularly like to reduce points of failure and even get things out on paper, or if you get it something on an iPad that is independent of the network, then also you can publish things that way. So you can use some sort of hybrid app technology to actually statically produce all your pages, so you can actually then still navigate it using something even when the network's down. You can still use one of the several redundant iPads that are around the room. So I've actually started even producing some of the graphics, very crude. Remember, I'm just experimenting. As I say, this is like a work in progress. But I've actually started to extract this information and starting using SVG. So I'm actually using the descriptions. I can show you what some of that looks like. Pull a small file of this. So it's basically, it's just way before XML. This format was developed way before XML was a thing. And it basically it's like so basically it's very, very strange, but it does have graphical information in here. So this is a graphical programming language, this particular part of it, and so it has connections and rectangles, and further down it should tell you how that's connected together. So it's got comments, these box graphics and things are comments, and later it actually has these source wires which tell you how it's connected up. So basically, I'm starting to iterate through some of this stuff and publish it out using these techniques. Okay, time for conclusion, I think. Yeah, so for safety critical harsh environments, you could even CNC this stuff to clay tablets. If that was like you're in a nuclear environment and you basically need somebody in 20,000 years time to work out why this thing's is this thing you could even do that. It's sort of, I like this idea of publishing stuff statically because and it's a pipeline of things you can do. So the CNC output is possible. It's not something I've even really considered doing. It's just a joke, but it's something you can even do. So in conclusion, the whole point about using Jamstack is the fact that it's this whole idea of publishing sites to the edge really is one of the advantages. It could be pretty serverless, which obviously minimizes any attack surface. There is a really, I discovered this vibrant and innovative ecosystem, things coming up, people doing stuff and addressing problems that I'd not really necessarily considered in my use of web development. So it was quite very, very interesting. And it really, the whole point about it is it empowers the front-end developer to do things other than just do front-end development. They can actually do things and actually create actual sites that can deploy them without having to learn hardly any new skills at all. So, that's it. So if anybody has any questions, I'm willing to take them, or we could
Yeah, has anyone got any questions at all? No?
Any reactions to, would they technology, or they find it uninteresting, or?
Why?
Why Hugo over Gatsby?
Okay, so I used Hugo because like the first thing I came across it was Go. I was using, used to using Go, and it seemed very simple, straightforward. It's the thing that I came across, and that was the thing that I did in the first day that persuaded me that I wanted to switch my whole project across to doing that. And then Gatsby was something that was, I think also Gatsby was going through a change to version 2 or something at the time, and basically it was a little bit, the documentation on some of the newer stuff wasn't quite there or whatever. But yeah, so I think Gatsby is very interesting, and obviously, yeah, it's much more complicated. You have a huge amount more control over anything, and I understood how Go templates work and things like that. So it's really straightforward for me to do. I was very productive very quickly. This is one thing I found with Go, as opposed to using some of the other real-time languages. I was very productive. Like it's very familiar compared to things like Erlang and Elixir and things like that.
Okay.
Would anybody consider using the Jamstack or Gatsby or things like that? Kind of consider doing it, or it's something that's not really interesting?
I need to port my blog to Gatsby because
Okay.
it's on Medium and it looks horrible.
Okay.
Try 11T.
11T.
Yeah.
Like 1.1T1.
Okay.
Try Ghost.
Yeah, I was going to try Ghost. I don't know. Yeah, I just hate Medium now because everyone hates Medium now because I just plaster it with cookie adverts and whatever. So yeah, thank you very much, Paul. Thank you again for that talk. Clap, 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 clap. We will probably bring back the cool wall some other time, because I think it went down quite well. If anyone has any strong opinions about technology, I'm looking at you, Dave. I'm looking at you, Steph. This is Redux person, okay? If you have any strong opinions about technology, by all means pin it up, and I'll take a photo of it, and then we can kind of go back and discuss it all and stuff like that. But yeah, until next time, thank you very much for coming. The slides should be available from Paul online and everything like that. So yeah, thank you very much for coming, and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are you working from home tomorrow?
I'm just going to go to the kitchen.
You are, that's obvious.
What? See you at 9? Huh? See you at 9 o'clock?
No.
Yeah, well, we've got feedback. It is, yeah.
I don't have up to do actually.
Go far enough left.
You haven't dyed your hair again.
I know.
I'm disappointed. I was expecting a little haircut. Yes. Oh, really? Nice. So what have you done?
Yeah, it's
From a Java perspective,
Okay. Oh right. So you got the mindset.
It's got a great logo.
That's the only reason. Okay. You didn't use card?
Depends injection. Can you depends injection person? Because I was starting to go.
Yeah, I'll pass it on. Yeah, it was good. Yeah. Speaking of which, maybe.
A-dubs, like precisely straddles the line between being discussed in the corporate and actually useful.
How do you do it?
Really lazy things where they expire if you don't use them.
I have no idea what that is.
Yes.
Refreshes them, but obviously
But what if they leave?
I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know what.
I understand why you're very keen, but if you use like to refresh
People do a lot to private the job, which is
So I created a visual program and
So what takes us to time out?
it was incredibly painful.
That's
Don't tell
anyone.
Expensive injections.
So what we settled on
And then basically they screwed me with that transition was like, yeah, I'm not going to do something.
That time has passed. It's now on school.
And then they get kicked out, and then there's like a refresh circuit will change. So then
What is this?
So basically, you can create your
I'm thinking maybe we should do in your
the fact that we haven't heard
that means it's either really cool or really uncool.
Yeah, I think it's
really old but yeah, so it's an interesting problem. I mean, if I'm on doing it again, rolling your own is just a dreadful thing. All zero, yeah, all zero. Everyone uses it, it's so good.
Depends what Angular uses and also the old zero copy. And they get out of zero and it's just chaos.
It could work.
It should, yeah. Yeah, it's more your own one. The important thing is when the client's phone and say we want.
No, it's cool that you've been doing that.
You need to reply with the roll out. So then that's in front. You should see the pitch. Are you going to see tell me? Yeah, you've got to stay. You've got to no. I think
it's like a kind of mad scientist. I've got a plan. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'll spread Josh's germs.
Am I the only one with disease? I was like, I thought everyone was yeah, sharing is sharing.
No, it's fine. I use the sanitizer. So my hands are perfectly
yeah, they're getting on really well. They're really
I didn't want you to get ill.
I'm sure you're going to make it like
she's devastated. She's got 700
Change the redefined.
Go through it to actually try and reduce it. It's like a hand and just put full body instead. You could. Poor Petros is probably 80 years old. He's more maths and engineering. He's
uncool to cool.
Yeah.
That is controversial.
True Python. Yeah, it's massively cool. So actually on Saturday, it's everybody from there.
It is.
Did anyone really Lyman overzealous blog?
It's like Minecraft. So they do Minecraft. Oh right. And then they have some code and they go back and play Minecraft. So it's basically, yeah. And then for their birthday party, something we actually do it this time.
Don't use any website.
As in she realised she couldn't even send text messages.
Yeah, all text messages on our platform are going through 3 different services.
It was the old garage and then the drive.
You're not going to get very far with that. And I actually met many services.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, but they're doing right. So they get this sort in positive. Which is really nice. So it's
yeah.
But the old school.
I won't be here next month.
Obviously cancelled Death on Toast now because Andrew wanted to do.
It's like there on the right hand side, just where just after where those new houses are being built.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's like little school, it's just
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically there's 7 in there. So they're two of them. So it's like 5 of the kids.
My sister's currently right. Just second class.
I think the whole school is only allowed 100 pupils. Like covers up to GCSE. So. Yeah.
We already got like obviously Falcon.
Yes, I know.
For the beach photos and stuff.
Yeah. Doing my sister on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think thank you very much. And I think that's the thing what you said about, you know.
Oh, you can do, yeah.
Oh my god, I've never.
Well, I went to a party at their house once, and I basically, like, I got, like, and my brother was saying, I've been watching all day, so you've got 3 beers. Like 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
That's why I tend to just say
if anyone comes to you, see how it's He's wearing rebel hoodie.
What?
Yeah. It's that generation. I didn't get a rebel seat.
Yeah.
I got the one. Yeah.
I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
See you guys.
How are you?
Still finance technology.
Oh, I see. You came with him.
No.
Region Road.
Oh, I see.
No, I mean, when do we need ETAs and...
He says he's having done
that.
Yeah.
And it's gone through.
I did Visual C++. So back in 2000,
so left to go
to Java because they basically got sick of doing Visual Basic and Visual C++. And then like that very year they announced .NET. So I did Java certified solution provider, and then so like switched immediately over to back to doing .NET because obviously Microsoft was the big player in the area. So .NET. So and by 2003 I was certified developer for .NET.
Oh wow!
So you got it around. One of the reasons was because I think I did like dropped out for contract for a while. I was like a new role.
Yeah,
like a tail.
Yeah, we started thinking of it like like the Firefox.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
And I was like,
so we sort of playing around with things like that.
Come back!
And I'm
yeah. Could we do those skills now?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's such a fascinating web. It's not JavaScript, but it's sort of like full stack. So it's API based. You've got your web from there that connects via an API down to Java, Spring, spits out
Java object, Java race.
Is that who you're using?
JSON.
I was going to use it.
Yeah.
That's cool, yeah,
So because we do it a bit of all, it's like there's no mastery. You do get some people that want to do context that can do.
They've done the PHP,
but mainly they try and cover it all.
So
If someone's
so
off,
their ones are math. I was doing it, but
enjoy it. It's the domain file technology is difficult.
These things like React and Vue and Angular, whatever it is.
So yeah, by
originally did stuff when in the early version of Civilized. So
it's
very similar to the same sort of thing.
Alright, well, probably the easiest way to do that is.
But it was
rather than
written good. And then obviously went away. Obviously HTML5 was going to beat it eventually as a standard. Obviously they wanted to take on the Microsoft standard.
Probably copy me into an email and say
no,
but it was all right on the wall. But basically, what I learned, it's like when I did first did Mac development back in
When's the next one?
late 80s. I think with like next from 91 onwards.
Wow.
Basically, I could then just basically, I've been doing this for years, you know, like, when you do this, you just come out, you know, so you write it all on the Mac.
Yeah, of course.
So I just like dive to the contract.
No, not just you, but like
the next step.
Well, I think
It's kind of like how I went into computers. So I wanted to make levels for Doom.
Right.
So I had to learn like a C syntax. Obviously, John Carmack, very famous. Did a lot of stuff for just as a kid, which to be fair, as a 4-year-old, you probably shouldn't be exposed to the stuff that was in Doom. Didn't do too much of it. He's retired. This Christmas, he just retired. He was working at Leicester fixing satellites that were built in the 60s and no one knew how to repair them. Just do it like, you still get emails, the academics just talking about, I need to do this. I don't know how to do it, like, anyway, he loved it, but they did a cuts in the groups and that was accepted.
Obviously, you
60.
I said this when I moved.
Those are the types of people I want to work with.
So
yeah, well, this is the thing. Like we're here.
Is it all things like stuff, or is it just has to be consumer stuff like this?
I think it was just happened to be whatever they needed repairing. I think they were helping out PhD students and stuff like that. So I'm not sure what the department was. It was on the University Road on the right.
Middle ground.
Yeah, so just all kinds of stuff. We had a workshop just full of crap.
There's a guy in Hacksport
this thing like
oh wow, okay, yeah, I imagine they're much newer than because
I really like old technology, print technology, but it's also it took space for years and years and years and it's like when it actually gets there, it's like in space for years, it's like really old technology by the time it actually gets transmitted and they can see all that stuff. Because it has to be hyper reliable.
Red everywhere.
Oh yeah, you don't want
and
to
then service manager.
Yeah, no, so now he's part-time babysitter and odd jobs.
Yeah, when I see you, I just like, because I remember I knew your father from when he was like, well, younger than me. Well, probably about your age, because I think I was at the time I was about 18 or something like that.
Right.
So
yeah, so I celebrated my 30th birthday last year. So believe it or not. So
your father was a few years older. He's only
right.
58 still.
Oh, okay.
I think it's working. It's
working. One time you know you're doing something wrong.
Exactly.
You know you're doing something right.
Well, that's
exactly. And if it's in the right.
Okay.
Yeah. Not doing things from trying out to upset people. We're not bad mouth.
Yeah. It's scary, isn't it? When you think about it, you stop and think
pushing a brand and
how much time.
People know, especially senior people, know how powerful our brand is.
Yeah, sure.
But also,
like Apple in the 80s, right?
Oh, this year?
This is the thing with that. We've got some really good people.
He's 89.
Yeah.
Rose was 92. Then we've got big Gatsby.
I'm still excited about it. I'll see you.
Where we're running like things. We actually get there are people pitch them as well. So basically they pitch to the dragons and then they have to explain in like 2 sentences to the kids, so the kids can.
That's really clever. I bet that's a struggle.
Yeah, exactly. And that really funny at one point.
I'm sure you guys say you can say.
Okay, cool.
Like at one point, Petros just turns around to his mum and says, "So how are they going to make money?" God, it's like inside a 7-year-old. Yeah, everybody in the room was thinking the same thing. That's good stuff. Good stuff. The other's probably the most financially astute one, though.
Oh, I'm glad to do it. It sounds awesome. Yeah.
It's like a whole new. It's like, you know, like, I think I was just way too. Obviously, the kids just way too busy when they were. You know, like, they literally used to play on my desk a lot.
Yeah.
So I just have time. But,
I mean, I vaguely remember the house in Narberth, but I do remember the office that you had. Was it a Mac? Was it a Mac?
yeah, so we took the stairs and turned. Yeah, so we had Macs and we had PCs, but obviously it depended on when it was. But yeah. Because I think. Okay, then so.
My earliest memories, like literally.
Okay, then so I had Macs up until '92, and then I went over completely to Windows, so that's working on running.
Of course, yeah. Right.
And then when Tiger came out in about 2005, then I went back into the Mac things.
Oh, was that the Intel?
It was just before that. It was just before that. It was still PowerPC or it was, but it was just the fact they brought these two technologies out in Tiger, which is 10.5, and obviously no way around 10.14 or something like that.
Yeah.
10.14. So, but it was the interesting things they brought the Automator.
Oh yeah, the Apple script stuff.
Yeah, and then Dashboard as well. And these are two. Dashboard isn't actually still around, but if you want to see it, but it's which is little script, little components. Yeah, so you create the Automator was great because it basically was it's like a visual programming language for automation. And also you had all these plugins ideas and things like that. So my idea was to actually create an automator for the Mac. For Windows.
For Windows?
Yeah,
right.
and so that's what I worked on for a while, as a side project.
Yeah,
because I'm used to creating visual programming languages. It's one of the things that I did in quite a few ways. So.
DSLs and STs and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a bit like helping out. There was a guy doing new, David Smallwood, who was very big on the lower levels and the algorithms and sort of a lot of AST-based traversal.
Right, yeah, exactly. Visitor patterns.
Yeah, used to scare me. Obviously, I'm working Java now, so there's probably hundreds of layers of source code before I see anything like that.
Those things with the remark stuff. Those are using some of those ideas.
Yeah, I mean there are. Like I said, I mean that's all JavaScript. The parsers and stuff like that. The AST, all that. It's all written in JavaScript. It's crazy to see.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I haven't seen is there's a SAS, which is a CSS big I think that's still they do that in C in the background. They sort of compile a C program and then just pipe it from JavaScript. I might be wrong. I think there was a Ruby version. It's stuck out in Ruby, and it's too slow to move it to C. I'd like to see that in JavaScript. I bet it could do it, but I mean it's just too. I'm not mathematical. I'm very bad at mathematics. It's obviously quite. I suppose we were saying about safety as well, like things blowing up because of. Wrong program. That scares me.
So one of the things that I did for Emerson, one of the things that the way they kept me around for so long is I built their expression language. So all the custom-based scripts that they've written, they're all written using my parsers. And basically, so they kept me around for about 10 years. Because basically, in fact, nobody knows. They can't even change it now because even the test suite we actually had, the test tool we use, MS Test. Has been defunct for years. So basically, so they have to. So they don't change it.
I don't know what you do in that situation if you need to write
they need to rewrite it from scratch, and obviously but obviously they really need to wait for a new generation of systems to come along, so they can actually have a new user base, if you like.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
People will tolerate because obviously if you're going from version, I think we're on about version 17 or something of Delta V. This week's been going. It's like have a new version about every 18 months or something. It's been going on for since like the mid-90s. But it's basically it's used all over the place. They did this thing where they took a big gamble to actually develop a next generation during a depression.
Oh God! Right.
So it's during a depression in the whole market in the early 90s. And they basically invested in it, and everybody else was not invested. And they all of a sudden, because they got up the curve very quickly, and came back, wanted to use this new system. and basically they just captured all the market and basically became massive. So the,
Right,
that area of
right.
the curve, they became like this Fortune 100 company.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And of course, it's not just the actual selling the software; it's all the services on top.